Hi, it's Mel from Movement and New Fitness Coaching. Today we're looking at orange and almond cake, and it's made it into Junk Food Friday because it is dairy and gluten free, and I've totally decreased the sugar and mastered the recipe so it will still come out beautifully. Nice little treat of a cake to have, but it is a discretionary food, which means to only eat it sometimes. So to find out more about discretionary foods and how they work, go to the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating website. The link's on the blog for the recipe, so make sure you head to my website and download the blog so you've got the written recipe to follow. But the video is going to be pretty informative as well. So just so you know, if you divide this cake into 8 pieces, each piece of cake has 2 teaspoons of sugar, which is the maximum you'd want to have in a day. So have a look. It's a great little sweet treat to give to the kids without being too naughty, but discretionary. So please enjoy this recipe. Let's head into the kitchen and get baking. Orange and almond cake. In the pot, the little dish is full of water to weigh the oranges down. Paper's on top to hold the oranges down. It's just enough water to cover the oranges. The oranges are cut in half so they cook quicker, and the paper is there to keep the moisture and the oranges weighed down, and then the dish sits on top. So you keep boiling those. We're going to boil those for about an hour, hour and a half. I'll let you know the exact time in the recipe. So we're just going to line an 8-inch cake tin. Don't need grease on it at this stage because we're just using baking paper. So I choose a large piece of paper like so. And I'm going to show you how to make a cartouche to line your tin. Fold it in half. Fold it in half again. And fold it in half to make a triangle. From there, take your triangle and hold it to the middle of the cake pan. Have a measurement of excess paper of about 1.5 centimeters and make a rip across that paper. And there you have a nice cartouche to put inside your cake tin. Flatten it down, getting out all the wrinkles, making sure it's evenly up the side of your tin all the way around. This cake doesn't raise a lot like a regular cake, it's a little bit denser. So you don't have to have it coming right over the sides of the paper because the cake mixture isn't going to rise a great deal. The air raising agent in it is really just there to lighten the mixture, not make it raise up. So what we have in the pot is the cooked oranges. They've been cooking for 3 hours. So the idea is they cook until they start to break up, because what we're going to do is put them in the food processor. So I've been topping them up with water the whole way along to make sure they stay just to the top with water. But you can see how they're just breaking up, poking them with a fork. So the water that's left in the bottom at the end of the cooking, that all goes into the food processor. Cools first, so I'm going to leave that there for about an hour to cool, and then we'll blend it. They'll get blended until they're completely smooth. Any seeds have been picked out, but I used navel oranges, so there were no seeds in them. In here, I've got the separated egg yolks, which I'm going to whisk. In this bowl, I've got the almond meal and the baking powder. And come over here, we've got the egg whites, and I've got pre-warmed sugar, so it's just been sitting in the oven, warming up, just body temperature. And what that does, it gets streamed into the egg white once it's aerated, and it helps to set the egg white proteins so it holds its aeration better when we mix it through. And that's why you also don't need much aeration product like baking powder, because the egg whites do a lot of the aerating. So I'm going to mix this until the egg whites are stiff, then turn it down and stream the sugar in. So in here we've got the whisked up egg yolks. You just whisk them until the egg white's ready. That's why I was standing here watching the egg whites. Come over, look in this egg white bowl for me. See how they're stiff? Now if you keep whipping that, it's going to cause them to start to separate, and then you won't have a beautiful aerated smooth mix. So at this point, this is where you stop it. You turn the speed back on relatively high, and we stream the sugar in. Just nice and slow and steady while it's mixing. From there, you got beautifully aerated set egg whites. So the heat of the sugar helps to strengthen the protein, and as the sugar sets, it helps to set the protein and hold in its aeration. Come over here with me. In here, we've got the beautifully pureed oranges. So I added nothing. You saw what I put into the jug, and then I just put it on puree. That's how you want it to look, nice and smooth. So what we're going to do now is combine it all. So the next step is into the egg yolks is the almond meal and the baking powder. Okay, so in there is the almond meal. I've swapped to the scraper now in order to be able to mix it better, and as it's bound together, it's time to add the orange. Get all of it out because it's going to flavour that cake nicely with orange, as well as help sweeten it. So this recipe is lower in sugar than any cake recipe you'll have, and that's why it's been able to be featured in Junk Food Friday, because there's no fat in it and the sugar is very minimal, making it a good discretionary food for you to eat some of the time, not all of the time. Remember that, discretionary foods are some of the time, not an everyday food. Okay, so you just mix till all those almond meal lumps have dissolved, because you want to do that before we add the egg white, otherwise you're going to knock all of the air out of the egg white and you'll lose those lovely aeration properties we worked so hard to get. So you can see how that's nice and stiff. From here, we're just going to scrape that in, half of it to start with. So I fold half of that in, and I'm using a folding action now. See that folding action? I'm no longer mixing it like a mad woman. I want to keep as much of the aeration through that egg white as I can. Once that starts to combine, I add the rest of the egg white. Otherwise, we can overmix and knock all of the aeration out that way as well. So you have to be a little bit delicate. Scraping all the way down to the bottom of the bowl. Alright, so that's how it should look when you've finished mixing it. Still aerated, you can see. Lost a little bit of air, but you try and mix it as gently as you can to minimize that. Now the recipe I've left on the website is for an 8-inch tin, which is this one. I needed an extra cake today though, so I've made extra mix because I need 2 cakes. So the recipe on the website is for an 8-inch tin. Make sure you head to that website and download it. While you're there, have a look at a few other health tips and recipes. Some of the other recipes, if you haven't been watching my movement and new fitness coaching YouTube channel, have a squiz at it. Because there's some good little junk food Friday recipes in there that the kids will love. And I've deliberately done some so we can start feeding our children a lot better than what we are, giving them better energy, helping them get through their day. So you can see how I'm hollowing out the middle and getting it all up the sides first. Because what will happen is, if you make the middle too thick and uneven, it rises in the middle unevenly. So by making it a little bit lower in the middle, actually helps it to cook evenly in the oven. So I'm going to leave that there. That's the 8-inch tin. So this is the finished product, just out the oven. Knife goes in, comes out clean. Okay, so what I did, I turned off the oven and I let them sit in there for about 5 or 10 minutes with the door open, just to finish off. So it was a little bit moist still when I put the knife in, but you don't want to overcook it, so it's easier to just turn the oven off, ajar the door and let the cake sit in there for 5 to 10 minutes and then move them to the cooling rack like this. And you can see as it bakes, it pulls away from the side, but that's not a sign it's cooked. So do not take it out of the oven without doing the knife test. All done.